dental caries, it is the another name of tooth decay. Tooth decay is also called dental caries, and dental caries, or sometimes it is also known as dental cavities. Now first we shall see the part of a tooth. Parts of a tooth. A tooth has the following parts, that is, first one is crown. From the crown, the part which we see, the part of the tooth which we see. That part of the tooth which we see is called crown. Next one. Now second one is gum line. It is the junction of tooth and gum, means where the gum and tooth are mixed, that is known as gum line. Next one is root. It is the embedded part of the tooth in gum. That part which is embedded in the gum is called root of the teeth. Next one, enamel. The outermost layer of the tooth is called enamel. Next, dentine. The part which found under the enamel. That part of the tooth which found under the enamel is called dentine. Now, how the tooth decay? You see, we eat many things. Suppose when we eat some things, and if we do not wash our teeth well, then what's the effect? The bacteria will affect on that. When bacteria acts on the sugar of food containing teeth, it forms an acid which softens the enamel. It softens the enamels. Now the bacterial cell. Now here that when the bacteria acts on the sugars containing food and teeth, it forms the acid and which softens the enamels. Now the bacterial cell with food particles attached to the teeth and for dental plaque. So brushing is essential. Brushing is essential, means daily or regular brushing is essential to save the teeth. Next, and if we do not save our teeth, if we do not treat us the teeth, the pulp may be causing inflammation and infected. And if we do not treat our teeth in well, these microorganisms may invade the pulp and causing inflammation and infection. So respiration, it is one of the vital process for the living. It is defined as respiration is a biochemical, means catabolic reaction in which food, that is glucose, oxidized glucose is oxidized, in which the food glucose is oxidized to give energy in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, and releases CO2, that is carbon dioxide is eliminated out, and in which glucose is oxidized. The equation we may write in such position that glucose C6H12O6, that is oxidized, means combined with oxygens and gives CO2 plus H2O plus energy, 6 CO2, 6 H2O and 6 O2. So we see that this is the glucose which combines with oxygen, that is oxidized, and gives CO2 and H2O. This CO2 is eliminated out. So we can say that respiration is a vital process, and for any living it is essential. And it is of two types. It is of two types. One is aerobic respirations, and second one is anaerobic respiration. Means, as you know, A means aerobic means that it needs oxygen, and that anaerobic means it takes place in absence of oxygen. It means due to presence of oxygen and absence of oxygen, these names are given. Now we shall see how such type of respiration take place. Now that means the respiration which takes place in presence of oxygen, that takes place in presence of oxygen. As you know that we have already done C6H12O6 plus 6O2 is equal to C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus energy. And next one is, this takes place in all the plants and animals. Now an Arabic as you know by the name that the respiration which takes place in absence of oxygen, that takes place in absence of oxygen, as for example C6H12O6 gives us C2H5OH, that is ethyl alcohol, plus CO2 plus energy. It is 2 less than that one. Now that is ethyl or C2H5OH, ethyl alcohol, that takes place, and that takes place in the example yeast bacteria. And one thing also, that such type of respiration also takes place in the muscles if there is lack of oxygen. And in the lack of oxygen, this C6H12O6, lack of O2, it gives C3H6O3 plus energy. It is lactic acid, and that takes place in the muscle. So such type of respirations takes place in the livings. Oxidation of glucose into CO2 and H2O is not a short process. It's not a one step or 2 steps process, but it completes in many steps. Now, sorry, glucose, that is, C6H12O6, it splits into pyruvic acid. It is also called pyruvate, that is C3H4O3. You see that number of 6 carbon is 6 and it is 2. So it is 2 moles of, that is pyruvate. Now, and this process is called glycolysis, and this takes place in cytoplasm. Means site of the glycolysis is cytoplasm. Glycolysis means glyco means glucose and lysis means splitting of glucose. Yani one glucose molecules splits into 2 moles of pyruvate. Now here the question of using oxygen or not is taken place. If the oxygen is present, means in presence of oxygen, the cycles, non-Krebs cycles takes place, and due to which it changes into CO2 plus H2O plus 36 ATP, and that process takes place in mitochondria. So a huge amount of ATP is formed in mitochondria, so it is also called powerhouse of the cell. This is in presence of oxygen. If oxygen is absent, means O2 is absent, then it will change into C2H5OH, that is ethyl alcohol, plus CO2 plus 2 ATP, and this is called alcoholic. This is ethyl alcohol, so it is known as alcoholic fermentation. And as I have already told you that this takes place in yeast and bacteria. And if the lack of oxygen, this will go to the muscles and change into lactic acid, C3H6O3 plus 2 ATP. It is lactic acid, and it takes place in muscles, and due to a formation of lactic acid in muscles, the muscle cramps. So these are the 3 steps. So after the formation of fibroblasts, according to the status of the oxygens, this goes in the following way. If the oxygen is present, that will go to the mitochondria and use the Krebs cycles, and 36 ATP will form. And if the oxygen is absent, if there is no oxygen, the ethyl alcohol C2H5OH will form, and that is known as alcoholic fermentation. And it is found in the bacteria, yeast, like that. And in the lack of oxygen, the pyruvic acid is stored in the muscles and change into lactic acids, C3H6O3 plus 2 ATP, and this takes place in muscle, and due to formation of lactic acid, the muscles cramps. So there is a brief view of the respiration.